Welcome to On Our Watch, a podcast about coastal erosion and sustainability in Louisiana. My name is Marian Evans. I'm a filmmaker and a producer of the documentary On Our Watch, a feature-length film that examines Louisiana's coastal land loss crisis and the ways in which it affects our communities, industries, and culture. The film's director, Jonathan Evans, and I are proud to launch this podcast series that will continue to explore issues facing the Louisiana coast through conversations with local residents, community leaders, and experts. On this episode, we're speaking with Franziska Trautmann, co-founder and CEO of Glaf Half, a New Orleans-based glass recycling company. And now, our interview with Franziska Trautmann. Thank you for joining us today. So, you and your co-founder, Max Steitz, started Glaf Half when you were seniors at Tulane in 2020. Can you kind of take me back to that time and, what led up to you creating Glaf Half?
Yeah, so like I always say, Glaf Half started like most good ideas over a bottle of wine. So my co-founder Max and I generally sometimes indulged in our $2 chucks from Trader Joe's. And one night in particular, we were finishing up our $2 chuck and realized that it would end up in a landfill, like every other glass bottle in the state of Louisiana. And it was a small shift, but a shift in what we wanted to do about that. And instead of continuing to be a part of the problem, consuming glass, sending it to the trash, we decided we wanted to somehow be a part of the solution. And initially it was a really small, action. We were like, let's collect it and see what we can do with it. And it kind of took off from there.
Right. And you were studying chemical engineering, is that right?
Yes. So I was studying chemical engineering. Max was a poli-sci major. Yeah.
Nice. So you kind of already had an idea of how you would work with the glass once you got it.
Well, we kind of had this idea, we knew glass came from sand. And so we really, in the early days, did a lot of Googling and Googled, can glass turn back into sand? Are there machines that can do that? And basically we found out, yes, you can turn glass back into sand. There's machines you can buy to do that exact thing. And when we found a very small machine that cost about $6,000, we were like, all right, that's it. Let's get a small machine, turn it back into sand. And we knew living in New Orleans that we needed sand. And that sand is a precious resource here for a bunch of different reasons. And so that's kind of what jump-started our plans.
That's so interesting. So you really didn't know that much to start. You just kind of took a lot of initiative, and that's so impressive. So tell me about some of the different creative solutions for your recycled glass, because I know that it gets used in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. So the first way that we utilized the glass was as sand in sandbags. That was like the most direct thing we could think of. We knew that we needed sandbags for storms and hurricanes, and that seemed like a simple enough thing to do, bag it up. And then our main goal has always been using it for coastal restoration. So we set up, research and applied for grants to be able to do that. But we've also teamed up with a ton of different artists from various mediums. We've teamed up with collage artists who make artwork out of the crushed glass. We've teamed up with Mardi Gras crews who make throws and different things. And then one of the major art collaborations we do is turning the glass into new glass pieces. So we've made jewelry, necklaces, different things by firing the glass and shaping it into different things.
Very cool. So I want to ask a little more about your coastal restoration efforts. So when did you first become involved in that since starting Glaf Half? And tell me a little bit about how that works.
Yeah. So like I said, from the beginning, we wanted to turn glass back into sand because we knew that turning it back into bottles was not as feasible for us here. We don't have glass bottle manufacturers nearby. And so we knew that glass to sand, ideally for coastal restoration, was what we wanted to do. But as a chemical engineering major, I knew that wasn't that simple, that we'd have to do some research. And so I teamed up with some of my professors at Tulane, and we applied for a National Science Foundation grant. In 2021, we received that grant. And so that essentially financially supported all of the research that went into proving the safety, the feasibility, the efficacy of using recycled glass sand for coastal restoration here in Louisiana. So that's where it all started in 2021. It started with a team of about 10 researchers from different fields: ecology, chemical engineering, civil engineering, coastal modeling. And then we were granted even more funding in 2022. And so we added 10 more researchers. So we now have a team of 20. So kind of anything you could think of related to utilizing recycled glass sand in coastal restoration, we have someone on the team who's an expert in that, which is kind of cool. And all of the research has been really focused on Louisiana environments. And that has proven to be a safe and feasible sediment material to use. And so now we're starting to branch out into, okay, what if we could use it in sandy dune environments or restoring man-made beaches and things like that. And then in terms of how the restoration works, it's really different each time. We often like to team up with coastal restoration organizations. So for example, our last project, which was our biggest project yet, it was in Big Branch National Wildlife Refuge, and we teamed up with Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana. We teamed up with Fish and Wildlife, Common Ground Relief, and essentially we bagged our sand in biodegradable burlap bags, which we get from coffee roasters, and then we utilized those sandbags as a wall. So we basically built a wall to mimic where the coastline should have been before Hurricane Ida came in and destroyed some of the marshland. So we built a wall to mimic where we wanted the coastline to be and then planted bulrush plants behind it. And the idea is to like fill in that hole in the marsh that was created during Ida. So that's just one example of a project. We have other projects like with the Pointe-au-Chien tribe. That's more like filling in canals. And we've done like Christmas tree projects, a lot of different ones.
Yeah. So what kind of progress have you seen from some of these projects?
Yeah, so the Big Branch project that we just completed in June, we did the same exact thing a year ago. So basically filling in a blowout in the marsh, and it looks incredible. I was able to see pictures, take pictures from like the exact same spots of like right when we installed the wall and the bulrush, and then like a couple months later and then a year later. And you can't even see like where, like it's just so filled in, you can't even tell it's from the same place, basically. I think someone on TikTok put it the best, which is basically like we put a Band-Aid on the coast and then it healed it itself. I love that phrasing, but yeah, it's basically like a hole in the marsh, and then we kind of like put that wall and it filled in.
That must be so gratifying.
It's so gratifying. It's so cool to see. And this last project that we did was like probably 5 times the size of the one we did last year. So I'm excited to see how that one fills in and progresses.
Yeah, it's incredible. So why was it important for you to do something in the coastal restoration space? It seems like that was like a central part of the founding of Glaf Half.
Yeah, I think growing up in Louisiana, we always hear how we're losing a football field of land to coastal erosion every 100 minutes. It's like drilled into our brains as young kids. And I grew up in a kind of rural town in Louisiana and on a bayou, and just felt really connected to like our coasts and our ecosystems here in Louisiana. So I've always wanted to do something related to the environment. I just didn't know what until the idea for Glaf Half came about. And then like as the research has progressed and realizing how helpful this could be for coastal restoration, I think it's just like a no-brainer for me as a little Louisiana kid, you know, it's filling that childhood dream.
Yeah. Seems like you've gotten a lot of support from all these organizations too.
Yeah, that's been an incredible part of starting an organization here is the community aspect of it. I mean, yeah, I feel like a lot of my friends are, you know, in other nonprofits or businesses locally, and being able to work together and bring in as many people as possible for each project is an exciting part.
Yeah. And so how would you describe your personal connection to nature? It seems like something you've been drawn to from a young age.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, maybe I'll become one of those old people that's like, back in my day. But like back in my day, you know, when I was growing up, I had like SpongeBob on the TV or like playing outside. So I played outside all the time, on the bayou, mudding, like making things out of mud, looking for snakes and things. Like always felt very connected to nature, and that was my happy place. That's where I had so much fun. And so I think trying to continue to have that connection, and you can really feel it when you're out on the coast, in the marsh. It's a feeling like no other.
Yeah. When you started college and you were majoring in chemical engineering, did you ever think you would be doing anything like this?
No, I thought I was going to go work for someone, like get a 9 to 5 and have a salary and just like a normal job. But this happened instead. I mean, I couldn't be more happy, but this was not at all what I was expecting.
Yeah. And so, yeah, Glaf Half has really taken off in a big way since you guys started in 2020. What has this process been like for you over the past few years? And what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned since you started?
It's been a whirlwind for sure. I think one of the biggest lessons has been that community is an extremely important part of starting and running an organization. I think I'm just so glad that we had the idea to reach out to our community first. That's literally the first thing we did when we decided to start Glaf Half was like post places and tell people like, this is what we want to do. What do you think? How can you help us? Always trying to get more people involved in the process. I think that can determine how successful you'll be as an organization. Always being willing to collaborate, no matter how like strange or weird it sounds. Or so I think the community aspect is one of the biggest things I've learned, and being comfortable asking for help when you need it, and publicly. We do that all the time. We're like, this is happening. Does anybody have any ideas or ways to help us? One time we got in a new machine that we desperately needed to process the glass that we had, but the electrical setup was extremely complicated. None of our electricians that we had worked with knew how to do it. And so we just posted on social media and we were like, help. And then this electrical engineer came and helped us for free and was so kind and is the reason that our machines are running today. And so just different things like that, being able to ask for help and reach out to your community when you need.
What has surprised you the most along the way?
I think the power of TikTok. Kind of along the same lines. We've basically from the beginning just posted our journey, our story on TikTok, and we've gotten so many different things because of it. Mike Rowe, the guy from Dirty Jobs, gave us a grant in 2020 really early on because he saw a TikTok video about it. We've just gotten so many random opportunities because either someone saw us on TikTok or they were like, my daughter sent me this, or like my son sent me this on TikTok. And I think that's been the most surprising aspect.
Wow, yeah. You didn't even know what TikTok was. So
right,
it didn't even exist.
Yeah.
And what are you most excited about in the coastal restoration space going forward?
I am most excited about how I'm seeing more people become involved in the space. I think that's really important no matter if you work in coastal restoration or not. There's always opportunities for people to get involved at different levels. So for example, when we have a coastal restoration day, we bring 50 volunteers out to a site, and it's so cool seeing all the different things people do, from teenagers to people who are retired. Everyone can kind of have a stake in this and should have a stake in this because it's so crucial, at least to Louisiana.
Absolutely. Well, Fran, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to On Our Watch. We hope you enjoyed our discussion with Franziska Trautmann. Don't forget to subscribe to On Our Watch on your favorite podcast app to be notified about future episodes. You can also watch a video version of this podcast on YouTube, which you can find a link to in the description. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back with another episode next week. This podcast is made possible through grant funds from the Greater New Orleans Foundation and is executive produced by Bruno UK Steiner.